Hi, I'm Tony Constantine, an investment advisor representative with Lakemark Securities Corp. For those who are new this week, I need to remind you that my views are mine and are not necessarily the same views as those of Lifemark Securities Corp. That being said, I do a lot of research, uh, both for my clients and for these presentations, which ultimately the information reaches my clients. Um, but economics have a strong correlation to the market uh, in the sale of stocks, bonds, and other securities. That being said, I sat through a presentation by Mr. Brian Stansberry, who is the chief economist at First Trust Advisors. He brought along his favorite charts and all that sort of thing and his unique brand of expertise, and presented some thought provoking arguments. Uh, but he seems to think that we're headed toward a recession fairly soon. But before you get too terrified of that, bear in mind that for every economist that thinks we're headed toward a recession, right at this point, there seems to be at least one more who thinks we're not going to have a recession. So don't get too flustered and frustrated by that. But some of Mr. Westbury's thoughts do bear some weight. First, it was his opinion that when the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates back in November, shortly after the election, um, the inflation rate was still at 3% and had not dropped down to the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. So dropping rates at that point could cause inflation or not, just depends on many things. One of those things is the uh, spending rate of Congress. If the federal government continues spending money, which they have, that could be inflationary, putting more money out into circulation. I know our former president, Joe Biden, tried to get as much money out the door as he could, much of it going to Ukraine and to Angola for their railroad. I don't want to be critical, but I didn't hear about any spending in the tornado ravaged areas of our southeast or the wildfire devastation in the southwest. So we'll see what happens with the new administration. The other thing that we have to bear in mind is the fact that the national debt is currently somewhere around $6 trillion, according to the national debt clock. And you can look that up to check me out just to make sure that I'm right. I believe I am. With $36 trillion in debt, that's a lot of money. It's more than our national productivity. So that is ultimately a problem. Now, myself, I don't think we're heading toward a recession, simply because we've got a good bounce in the stock market since the election, and our new president now has already stated his objective to start working on reducing the national debt. He hasn't come out with any concrete plans as yet, but we'll see what happens. If he starts reducing the debt, that's probably going to be a good signal and enable us to sidestep any possible or possibility of a recession. But hey, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Remember, we do have two national disasters, the hurricanes in the southeast and the wildfires burning much of the southwest. And I'm talking about burning homes and businesses in the southwest. There's going to be a lot of money that's going to have to be spent in helping these areas rebuild and recoup. I don't want to put any pressure on politicians, but I hope they move to make things easier for those affected by both disasters. One thing that is a little disconcerting to me is the fact that there's one state who has refused to, so far, balked at, rather than refused, to step up to the plate in the Southwest and start taking care of business. Rather than that, they're trying to Trump-proof their state so that they can resist federal law. I don't think that's a very good idea. They already filed a lawsuit to try to stop the federal government from stepping in, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere because what the president decided to do is completely within the law, but we'll see. I don't understand the concept of wasting money on legal battles. That's unnecessary, but that's just me. Anyway, I believe that we're probably not going to have a recession because what the president wants to do, and with regard to reducing the overall national debt, it's a very important thing to do. $36 trillion is a whole lot of money. Anyway, this is why you need to be careful what you invest in. Okay, sit down with your planner. Know what you want to buy and what your expectations are for that purchase. In other words, what are the reasons you're buying it? Hopefully because you're going to get dividends and or appreciation. And how long you're going to hold it and what your targets are so that you know when it's the right time to sell. If and when that time comes. And it usually does come sooner or later. But it's very important that you stick to your plan. That's where you create the plan and the process of selecting the right stocks to buy and when to buy them. That's why we need a plan. And everyone should have one. That being said, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, my contact information will be on screen in a few moments. Come back next week for our next exciting adventure in investing. Until then, make every day a great day.